Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Concordia Prime, watching the stars through the massive viewport. The space station hung in neutral territory, far from any homeworld. It was built for moments like this, when species needed to talk instead of fight. Sarah adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform and checked her watch. In 2 hours, she would sit across from the Zeltharian Empire's representatives. The fate of humanity might depend on what happened in that room. Behind her, the station hummed with activity. Delegates from dozens of species walked the corridors. The tall, blue-skinned Altarians moved with grace. The insect-like hive queens clicked and buzzed to each other. The crystalline resonance sang in frequencies that made human ears ache. But everyone gave the Zeltharians a wide path. The Empire had ruled 40% of known space for 800 years. Their gray skin and 4 arms made them look harmless to humans. Their weapons did not. Every species in the galaxy had learned to bow when a Zeltharian spoke, except humans. Sarah's aide, Lieutenant James Park, approached with a datapad. "The latest reports from Earth, Ambassador," Sarah read quickly. More human colonies had been attacked. The Empire claimed they were disputed territories. The humans who died in those attacks might disagree, if they were still alive. "What's the casualty count now?" Sarah asked. 15,000 dead across 6 colonies, James said quietly. "The president is getting pressure from Congress to respond with force." Sarah nodded. She had seen the anger in President Webb's eyes during their last video call. Humanity had been patient for 50 years. That patience was running out. The human species had joined the Galactic Council in 2337. Back then, they controlled only their home system and a few nearby planets. The older species had treated them like children. Young race, they called humans. Eager, but inexperienced. Now humans controlled 3% of known space. Small, compared to the Empire, but they had grown faster than any species in recorded history. Other races whispered that humans bred like insects and spread like a disease. The Zeltharians had noticed too. "Ambassador?" James pointed toward the main corridor. "They're here." A group of Zeltharians walked toward them. Their leader was General HFY, the Empire's chief military advisor. His forearms moved in complex patterns as he spoke to his aides. His eyes, black as space, showed no emotion. Sarah had studied Zeltharian culture for 20 years. She knew their body language, their customs, their history of conquest. What she didn't understand was why they wanted war with humanity. The Empire could crush the human colonies easily. But then what? Humans would never surrender. They would fight until every last human was dead. The galaxy would remember the species that chose extinction over slavery. Maybe that was what the Empire wanted. A quick, clean genocide. Remove the threat before it grew larger. General HFY stopped in front of Sarah. His translator device turned his clicking language into perfect English. "Ambassador Chen, you look tired." "Long journey from Earth," Sarah replied in fluent Zeltharian. She had practiced the words until they sounded natural. HFY's eyes widened slightly. Few humans bothered to learn other languages. The translator devices worked perfectly, but speaking someone's language was a sign of respect. "Impressive," he said, switching back to Zeltharian. "Perhaps these talks will be more interesting than I expected." They walked together toward the conference room. The corridor was lined with flags from every Galactic Council member. The human flag, blue and white with Earth visible in the center, looked small next to the Empire's massive banner. "Tell me, Ambassador," HFY said as they walked. "What do you hope to accomplish?" "Today? Peace," Sarah said simply. "Peace." HFY repeated the word like it tasted strange. "Your species has been at war with someone for its entire recorded history. Romans fighting Greeks, Christians fighting Muslims, Americans fighting Russians, Chinese fighting everyone. Why would you want peace now?" Sarah stopped walking. "Because we learned that fighting each other was pointless. We had bigger things to worry about. Such as surviving in a galaxy full of species that could destroy us." HFY made a sound that might have been laughter. "You survived contact with us, that is more than most species can say." They entered the conference room. It was simple. A large table, comfortable chairs, recording devices. Nothing fancy. Just a place where words could be exchanged instead of weapons. Other delegates were already seated. The Altarians looked nervous. The Hive Queen's antennae twitched constantly. Even the usually calm resonance seemed on edge. Everyone knew what was at stake. Sarah took her seat across from Kethvar. Between them lay datapads with territorial maps, trade agreements, and casualty reports. The paperwork of diplomacy. Before we begin, Kethvar said, I want you to understand something. The Empire has existed for 8 centuries. We have seen young species rise and fall. We have watched them make the same mistakes over and over. What mistakes? Sarah asked. They expand too quickly. They take resources they cannot hold. They challenge powers they cannot defeat. His 4 eyes focused on her. They refuse to know their place. Sarah felt cold anger rise in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. And what is humanity's place? Serving the Empire, like every other species. The room went silent. Even the air recycling system seemed to pause. Sarah looked around the table. The other delegates avoided her eyes. They had all made their peace with the Empire. They all served. I see, Sarah said. She opened her datapad and began typing. Let me make sure I understand the Empire's position. You want humanity to surrender its independence. You want us to become a vassal state. You want us to serve. Yes. And if we refuse? Kethvar's expression didn't change. Then you will be removed from the territories you cannot hold. By force. Sarah finished typing and set down her pad. General, I came here hoping we could find common ground. I thought maybe we could share space without fighting. I was wrong. She stood up. Humanity will not serve. We will not surrender. We will not bow. Then you will die, Kethvar said simply. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a happy smile. General, my species survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and nuclear weapons. We survived by fighting everything that tried to kill us, including each other. She gathered her datapads. You think you know humans because you've watched us for 50 years. You think we're young and weak because we chose diplomacy over war. Sarah walked toward the door. At the threshold, she turned back. You mistake our choice for weakness. That may be the last mistake your empire ever makes. She left the room. Behind her, she could hear the worried clicking of Zeltharian voices and the nervous whispers of other delegates. Lieutenant Park caught up with her in the corridor. Ambassador, what happened? They want us to surrender or die, Sarah said. What do we do? Sarah looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, human colonies were building new cities and new lives. Children were being born who would never know what it meant to serve an empire. We go home, she said, and we prepare for war. The shuttle ride back to the human sector was quiet. Sarah spent the time writing her final report to President Webb. She chose her words carefully. Once this message reached Earth, there would be no turning back. As they approached the jump gate, Sarah looked back at Concordia Prime. The station grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light. She wondered if she would ever see it again. The galaxy was about to change. Sarah Chen just didn't know she wouldn't live to see it. 3 days after the failed negotiations, Ambassador Sarah Chen was dead. The news reached President Marcus Webb while he was having breakfast at his home in Virginia. His secure phone rang at 5:30 a.m. The voice on the other end belonged to Director Hayes from Human Intelligence. Mr. President, we have a situation at Concordia Prime. Webb set down his coffee cup. What kind of situation? Ambassador Chen is dead, sir. Murdered. The words hit Webb like a physical blow. He had known Sarah for 15 years. She had been his foreign policy advisor before becoming an ambassador. She had 3 children and a husband who taught history at Georgetown University. How? Webb asked. Neural disruptor. Zeltharian weapon. It happened during the farewell dinner. Webb closed his eyes. A neural disruptor didn't just kill. It liquefied the brain while the victim was still conscious. It was designed to cause maximum suffering. Are you certain it was the Zeltharians? Yes, sir. We have security footage. 3 operatives. They waited until she was giving her farewell speech, then fired from 3 different positions. Very professional. Webb felt something cold and hard settle in his stomach. Any survivors from our delegation? Lieutenant Park survived. He's in the medical bay. The weapon affected him too, but he was farther away. He'll recover. Get him to a secure facility. I want to know everything he saw. Webb hung up and stared out the window at his garden. Sarah had helped plant those roses 2 summers ago. She had dirt under her fingernails and laughed when the sprinkler system came on. Now she was dead. Murdered while trying to make peace. His phone rang again. This time it was General Patricia Hayes, chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Mr. President, I assume you've heard. Yes. Options? We can have the 5th Fleet at Zeltharian space in 72 hours. But sir, we need to think about this carefully. The Empire has 6 times our military strength. Webb was quiet for a moment. Patricia, how long have you known me? 23 years, sir. Have I ever made a decision based on fear? No, sir. I'm not starting now. Call an emergency session of Congress. And Patricia? Yes, sir. Start moving. Everything. All our fleets, all our assets, everything. 2 hours later, Webb stood before a joint session of Congress. The Great Hall was packed. Representatives and senators filled every seat. The gallery was crowded with reporters and diplomats from other species. Webb looked at the sea of faces. Many of these people had children serving in the colonies. Some had grandchildren who had never seen Earth. All of them were waiting for him to decide humanity's future. Members of Congress, Webb began. 3 days ago, I sent Ambassador Sarah Chen to Concordia Prime. Her mission was simple: prevent a war. The hall was completely silent. Ambassador Chen believed in peace. She believed that reasonable people could solve problems with words instead of weapons. She died believing that. Webb activated the wall display. Security footage from the station appeared. Everyone could see Sarah standing at a podium, raising her glass for a toast. Then the 3 flashes of light. Then Sarah falling, her body convulsing as the neural disruptor did its work. Several Congress members looked away. Others made angry noises. This is how the Zeltharian Empire responds to offers of peace, Webb said. This is how they treat diplomats under a flag of truce. He turned off the display. The Empire has issued a statement. They claim this was a rogue operation. They offer their regrets and a payment of 2 million credits. Webb's voice grew hard. 2 million credits. The price they put on Ambassador Chen's life. The price they put on human dignity. He looked across the hall. Some of you will say we should accept their apology. Some will say we should seek justice through the Galactic Council. Some will say we should be reasonable. Webb stepped closer to the podium. I am not feeling reasonable today. The hall erupted. Some Congress members cheered. Others argued. Webb waited for quiet. The Empire believes humans are weak. They believe we will bow our heads and accept murder because we fear their strength. They are wrong. He activated another display. This one showed star charts. The borders between human and Zeltharian space glowed red. For 50 years, humanity has chosen peace. We have negotiated instead of fought. We have compromised instead of conquered. We have shown restraint. Webb's voice rose. That ends today. The display changed. Now it showed military formations, ships moving toward jump points, weapons platforms coming online. I am ordering the immediate mobilization of all human military forces. I am withdrawing from all treaties with the Galactic Council. I am declaring a state of total war against the Zeltharian Empire. The hall exploded with noise. Some cheered. Some shouted questions. Foreign diplomats hurried toward the exits. Webb raised his hand for silence. The Empire wanted to send us a message. They wanted us to know our place. They wanted us to understand who has the power. He smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Message received. Now we'll send one back. The vote was not close. Congress authorized military action by a margin of 4-1. The few who opposed it did so quietly. Within hours, the news was spreading across human space. Colony defense forces began preparing for siege. Civilian ships started evacuating non-essential personnel. Factories began converting to military production. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Ambassador Veltar of the Altarians spoke for the majority. "The human response is disproportionate," she said. "One death does not justify system-wide warfare." The other species agreed. Humans were being emotional, unreasonable. They needed to calm down and think clearly. But some council members were worried. The resident delegate, whose crystalline body glowed with nervous energy, had studied human history. "Council members," the resident sang, "I have reviewed human military records. This species has been fighting wars for their entire recorded history. They are very good at it." The Hive Queen's translator made clicking sounds. "They are one species against an empire of 12. Mathematics suggests they will lose quickly." The resonant's glow dimmed. Mathematics did not account for human psychology. They do not appear to care about odds. General Kethvar watched the council debate from the Zeltharian delegation box. He was annoyed but not worried. Humans were emotional creatures. They would attack, suffer heavy losses, and then surrender. It might take 6 months to crush them completely. A year at most. He had no idea he would be dead within 3 weeks. Back on Earth, President Webb stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the White House. Wall displays showed the movement of human fleets throughout the galaxy. Admiral Chen, no relation to the murdered ambassador, gave him updates. "All fleets are moving to assigned positions, sir. We'll be ready to begin operations in 60 hours. What about the special projects? Prometheus Protocol is armed and ready. The Empire has no idea what's coming." Webb nodded. For 50 years, humanity had been the peaceful new member of the galactic community. They had shared some technology but kept their best secrets hidden. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had conquered their own planet before they learned to leave it. Sarah Chen's body was returned to Earth in a sealed casket. Her family held a private funeral. Her husband spoke about her love of peace. Her children read poems she had written. The whole ceremony lasted 2 hours. The war that followed lasted 6 months. By the end, the Zeltharian Empire would no longer exist. The first human attack came at dawn on the border world of Kethmira. The planet was a fortress. 6 orbital defense stations surrounded it like metal moons. The surface bristled with weapon emplacements and shield generators. 3 full battle fleets patrolled the system. General Voskan commanded the defenses from his underground bunker. He had fought in 17 campaigns for the Empire. His walls were covered with medals and battle honors. He was drinking his morning stimulant when his aide rushed in. "General, we have contacts on the outer sensors." "How many ships?" 12. Voskan almost choked on his drink. 12? The humans sent 12 ships against our entire battle group? "Yes, sir. They're requesting surrender terms." Voskan stood up, his forearms spreading wide in amusement. "Surrender terms? Have they lost their minds?" He walked to his command center. The tactical display showed his forces: 143 warships, 6 defense stations, and enough ground-based weapons to level a continent. Against this, humanity had sent 1 small squadron. "Open a channel," he ordered. The main screen flickered. A human face appeared. The man wore a simple uniform with no fancy decorations. His name tag read Murphy. "This is Admiral Murphy of the Human Colonial Navy. You have 1 hour to evacuate all civilian personnel and surrender your military forces." Voskan laughed. Several of his officers joined in. "Admiral Murphy, I am General Voskan, Defender of the Eastern March, victor of Tal Hassan, conqueror of the rebel worlds. I have 143 warships. You have 12. Perhaps you should surrender to me." Murphy's expression didn't change. "General, you have 59 minutes and 30 seconds. The transmission cut." Vossikan turned to his staff. Deploy all fleets. Let's end this quickly. The Zeltharian ships moved into attack formation. They had plasma cannons that could melt starship armor. They had shield generators that could absorb nuclear explosions. They had missile systems with enough firepower to crack moons. The human ships waited. At exactly 1 hour after the ultimatum, Admiral Murphy sent another message. General Vossikan, your time is up. Please observe Prometheus Protocol in action. Vossikan frowned. What is Prometheus Pro? The tactical display went insane. Something was happening near the system's outer edge. Space itself seemed to be tearing open. Energy readings spiked beyond his sensor's ability to measure. Then he saw them. 6 massive objects emerged from what looked like holes in space. They were dark gray and roughly cylindrical. Each one was 3 kilometers long and moving at impossible
speed. What are those? Vossikan demanded. His science officer worked frantically at his console. Sir, they appear to be solid tungsten.
Accelerated to 0.15 light speed. Vossikan felt his blood turn cold. Objects that size moving that fast would hit with the force of nuclear weapons. But that was impossible. No species had the technology to. The first kinetic projectile struck Defense Station Alpha. There was no explosion, no flash of light, no dramatic fireball. The station simply ceased to exist. 3 billion tons of metal and ceramic turned to superheated plasma in microseconds. The second projectile hit his largest battleship. The vessel was 2 kilometers long and carried 8,000 crew members. It vanished like a soap bubble. The third, fourth, fifth, and sixth projectiles struck other targets. In 30 seconds, half of Vossikan's fleet was gone. Return fire, he screamed. All ships return fire. His remaining warships opened up with everything they had. Plasma beams lanced across space. Missiles streaked toward the human squadron. The human ships didn't try to dodge. They didn't need to. The weapons struck some kind of barrier 50 kilometers away from their hulls. The energy beams scattered like light hitting a prism. The missiles exploded harmlessly against invisible walls. Sir, his weapons officer said in a shaking voice, our weapons have no effect. Admiral Murphy's face reappeared on the main screen. General, that was just the first demonstration. Would you like to see the second? Before Vossikan could respond, something new appeared on his sensors. Small objects were separating from the human ships. Hundreds of them. They moved with purpose, spreading throughout the system. What are those? He whispered. His science officer's voice cracked. Sir, they appear to be self-replicating. Vossikan watched in horror as the small objects found pieces of his destroyed ships. They began to change, to grow, to multiply. Within minutes, there were thousands of them, then tens of thousands. The objects attacked his remaining ships like a swarm of metal insects. They cut through armor with focused energy beams. They wormed their way inside hulls and began dismantling everything they found. But they didn't just destroy. They learned. After each attack, they became more efficient. They found weak points in Zeltharian ship design. They adapted to new defensive measures. They shared knowledge with each other instantly. Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count them. Vossikan had seen enough. All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance. Prepare for orbital bombardment of the human vessels. But when his remaining fleet tried to target the human ships, they found empty space. The 12 vessels had vanished. Where did they go? His answer came from the planet's surface. Emergency signals flooded the communication channels. The human ships had somehow appeared in the atmosphere. They were attacking ground installations with weapons that his sensors couldn't identify. Military bases simply stopped existing. Communication arrays went dark. Power plants shut down. But the humans weren't randomly destroying things. They were targeting specific systems. Vossikan realized they were dismantling his planet's ability to fight back. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Admiral Murphy appeared again. General Vossikan, I'm told your planet produces food for 12 other systems in your sector. That's unfortunate. What do you mean? We're going to destroy your agricultural capacity, every farm, every greenhouse, every food processing plant. The people will survive, but they won't be feeding anyone else. Voskon stared at the screen. That's against the laws of war. You can't target civilian food production. Murphy's smile was cold. General, your empire murdered our diplomat under a flag of truce. You don't get to talk about laws of war. The attack continued for 6 hours. When it was over, Kethmira could no longer support its population, much less export food to other worlds. The human fleet had crippled the planet without killing a single civilian, but they had made it useless to the Empire. As the human ships prepared to leave, Admiral Murphy sent one final message. General, please pass this along to your superiors. We're not trying to conquer your territory. We're going to make it too expensive for you to keep it. The human fleet vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. Voskon stood in his command center surrounded by the wreckage of his forces. He had lost 90% of his ships and all of his orbital defenses. His planet was defenseless and starving, and the humans had done it with 12 ships. He sent an emergency report to the Empire's high command. His message was simple. Humanity possesses weapons and technology far beyond our intelligence estimates. Immediate reinforcement required. The response came back within hours. Impossible. Humans are primitive. You must have made tactical errors. Voskon read the message twice. Then he walked to his communications console and sent a second report. This one was longer and more detailed. He described the kinetic weapons, the adaptive drones, and the shield technology. The response was the same. Impossible. 3 days later, the human fleet attacked the mining world of Draktar, then the industrial planet Velmos, then the trade hub at Quindara. Each attack was different. The humans seemed to study their targets carefully before striking. They hit mining worlds in ways that destroyed equipment, but left the miners alive. They attacked industrial planets by targeting power grids and transportation networks. They struck trade hubs by eliminating shipping facilities while leaving residential areas untouched. It was precise. It was calculated. It was terrifying. General Kethvar received the reports in his office on the capital world. He had expected quick human attacks followed by quick defeats. Instead, his border worlds were falling like dominoes. He called Admiral Mordak, his most experienced fleet commander. How many ships would you need to destroy the human force? Based on these reports, sir, I don't think we can destroy them. Not with conventional tactics. What do you recommend? Mordak was quiet for a long moment. Sir, I recommend we negotiate. Kethvar felt rage building in his chest. The Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. Sir, with respect, these humans don't seem very inferior. Kethvar cut the connection. Negotiate? The Empire had ruled for 8 centuries. They would not be dictated to by a species that had been in space for less than 100 years. He would gather the full battle fleet. He would crush these humans with overwhelming force. He would show the galaxy that the Empire was still the dominant power. It was the last mistake he would ever make. The humans had been preparing for this war for 50 years. They had hidden their best weapons and their most advanced technology. They had studied every species in the galaxy and learned from human history. Most importantly, they had never forgotten that they came from a world where only the strong survived. General Patricia Hayes stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Washington, watching the Empire's home fleet deploy for battle. 300 Zeltharian warships hung in space like a metal constellation. Behind them, the ancient defense platforms of Zelthar Prime glowed with barely contained energy. It was the largest fleet the Empire had assembled in 2 centuries. Against them, humanity had sent 50 ships. General, her aide whispered, "Are you sure about this?" Hayes didn't take her eyes off the display. Captain Morrison, have you ever studied human military history? Some, ma'am. Then you know we've always been outnumbered. Valley Forge, Stalingrad, the Chosin Reservoir. We don't win because we have more ships. We win because we're willing to do what others won't. She activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is General Hayes. Commence Doctrine Prometheus. Across human space, sleeper agents activated. They had been placed 50 years ago when humanity first joined the galactic community. Most were diplomats, traders, and researchers. Normal people living normal lives. Now they became something else. On the industrial world of Mektar, Dr. Sarah Williams had been studying Zeltharian metallurgy for 15 years. Her research had helped improve human starship armor. She was respected by her colleagues and trusted by the local government. She was also carrying 12 quantum destabilization devices in her laboratory equipment. At exactly 1400 hours, local time, she activated them all. The weapons didn't create explosions. They unraveled the bonds between atoms. The planet's 3 largest manufacturing complexes simply ceased to exist at the molecular level. 1,000,000 tons of industrial equipment became a fine powder that scattered in the wind. The same thing happened on dozens of worlds across the Empire. Research stations vanished. Communication arrays stopped working. Military depots turned to dust. The Empire's infrastructure began collapsing from within. But that was just the beginning. Admiral Kethvar commanded the home fleet from his flagship Eternal Victory. He watched his tactical display with growing confusion as reports flooded in from across the Empire. "Sir, we're losing contact with 17 systems. Enemy fleets? No, sir. Internal sabotage. Our industrial capacity is dropping by 30% per hour." Kethvar felt cold fear creep up his spine. "How is that possible?" "We're not sure, sir. But, sir, there's something else." "What?" "The human fleet is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're showing the execution footage." Kethvar's eyes went wide. The execution footage had been classified at the highest levels. It showed Ambassador Chen's death in graphic detail. "How did humans have access to?" "Sir, they're also broadcasting personnel files. Ours." The tactical display changed. Now it showed internal Empire communications, military reports, strategic plans, personal messages between high command officers. "They have everything," his communication officer whispered. Kethvar realized the humans had been spying on them for decades. Every military secret, every strategic plan, every weakness. "Sir, the human fleet is moving to attack position." Kethvar shook himself back to the present. "All ships, prepare for battle. Show them the might of the Empire." The Zeltharian fleet moved forward, their plasma cannons charged, their missile tubes loaded. This would be a traditional space battle, something they understood. The human ships spread out in a formation Kethvar didn't recognize. They weren't trying to match his firepower. They weren't positioning for a direct assault. They were surrounding his fleet. Fire at will, Kethvar ordered. 300 ships unleashed everything they had. Plasma beams lanced across space. Missiles streaked toward the human vessels. Energy weapons that could melt asteroids focused on the tiny human fleet. The weapons struck the same barriers they had encountered at the border worlds. The human ships sat inside bubbles of impossible technology, completely protected from the Empire's best weapons. "Sir, our attacks have no effect. Try the planetary defense platforms. The ancient weapons of Zelthar Prime had been built to destroy invasion fleets. Each one could crack a moon. 12 of them fired at once. The energy beams struck the human shields and scattered like light hitting water. The human ships didn't even slow down." "What are those shields made of?" Kethvar demanded. His science officer worked frantically. "Sir, I think they're bending space itself. The weapons aren't hitting the ships, they're hitting folded space-time." Before Kethvar could process this, the human ships opened fire, but they weren't targeting his fleet. They were firing at empty space, holes, appeared in reality itself. Through them came streams of something that looked like liquid metal. The substance flowed toward his ships with purpose and intelligence. "Evasive action!" Kethvar screamed. His ships tried to dodge, but the metal streams moved faster than anything natural. They struck his vessels and began to spread across their hulls like living organisms. Within minutes, the metal had covered entire ships. Then it began to change them. "Sir, the Victory's Hope is reporting total system failures. The metal is rewriting their computer systems. The Sword of Honor says their weapons are targeting their own fleet. The Guardian of Peace has lost life. Support. Their crew is abandoning ship." Kethvar watched in horror as his fleet turned against itself. Ships that had served the Empire for centuries began firing on their own allies. It wasn't random. The captured vessels coordinated their attacks with ruthless efficiency. Within an hour, Half of his fleet was either destroyed or converted. Sir, we need to retreat. Kethvar wanted to argue, but the numbers were clear. He was losing ships faster than he could count them. All remaining vessels fall back to the inner defense perimeter. The surviving ships retreated toward Zelthar Prime. Behind them, the converted vessels and the original human fleet gave pursuit. But something was wrong. The human ships weren't trying to destroy the retreating fleet. They were hurting them. Sir, they're driving us toward the planet. Kethvar suddenly understood. The humans weren't trying to win a space battle. They were forcing him to choose between abandoning his homeworld or watching his fleet be destroyed in its defense. All ships, maintain position at the defense perimeter. We make our stand here. The human fleet arranged itself in attack formation, but instead of charging, they simply waited. General Hayes's voice came over the communication system. Her words were being broadcast to every world in the Empire. Citizens of the Zeltharian Empire, my name is General Patricia Hayes. I command the human military forces currently surrounding your homeworld. The transmission showed footage from the battle. Zeltharian ships burning, defense stations crumbling, the pride of the Empire reduced to scrap metal. Your leaders tell you that humans are weak, that we are young and inexperienced, that we will surrender when faced with superior force. The footage changed. Now it showed human colonies under attack, cities burning, civilians fleeing. This is what your empire did to our people. Men, women, and children killed because we refused to serve you. New footage appeared. Ambassador Chen's murder played in slow motion. Every detail was visible. The coordinated attack, the neural disruptor's effects, the diplomatic immunity badge on her uniform. Your government murdered our diplomat under a flag of truce. They called it an accident, a rogue operation. They offered us 2 million credits and told us to be grateful. Hayes's voice grew cold. We are not grateful. We are angry. The transmission showed human military formations throughout the galaxy. Fleets at every major Zeltharian world. Troops, preparing for ground assault. Weapons that defied imagination powering up. For 50 years, humanity chose peace. We compromised, we negotiated, we showed restraint. Your leaders mistook this for weakness. The display changed one final time. Now it showed Earth itself. Cities full of people going about their daily lives, children playing in parks, families having dinner together. These are the people your empire threatened. These are the people you tried to intimidate. These are the people who decided your empire should no longer exist. The transmission cut. Aboard his flagship, Kethvar stared at the blank screen. Around him, his officers waited for orders. But what orders could he give? His fleet was trapped. His worlds were falling. His infrastructure was crumbling. The humans had shown they could strike anywhere, anytime, with weapons he couldn't counter. Sir? His aide whispered. Kethvar looked at the tactical display. The human ships were still waiting. They could destroy his remaining forces anytime they wanted. But they were giving him a chance to surrender. He thought about his mate and children on the planet below. He thought about the billions of citizens depending on him for protection. He thought about 8 centuries of imperial pride. Then he thought about the human colonies his forces had attacked, the civilians they had killed, the diplomat they had murdered. He reached for the communication controls. It was time to end this war. But first he had one question for General Hayes. Human commander, you could have destroyed us at any time. Why did you wait? Hayes's voice was quiet when she answered. Because we wanted you to understand something, Admiral. We didn't come here to conquer you. We came here to teach you a lesson. What lesson? That there are consequences for murdering diplomats, that some species don't forgive, that humans remember everything. Kethvar closed his eyes. What are your terms? Unconditional surrender, immediate, no negotiations. 6 months after Ambassador Sarah Chen's murder, President Marcus Webb stood in the same room where she had died. Concordia Prime had been cleaned and repaired. The scorch marks were gone. The broken furniture had been replaced. But Webb could still smell the ozone from the neural disruptor that had killed his friend. Around the conference table sat the leaders of what had been the Zeltharian Empire. Emperor Vexthon, once ruler of 40% of known space, now wore simple prisoner's clothes. His forearms were shackled with human-made restraints that neutralized his species' natural strength. The other Zeltharian officials looked equally defeated. Admiral Kethvar had not survived the war. His ship had been destroyed in the final battle when he tried to ram a human vessel rather than surrender. General Voskan sat with his head down, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. Representatives from other galactic species watched from the gallery. The Altarians looked nervous. The Hive Queens clicked softly to each other. The resonance glowed with worried energy. They had all learned an important lesson in the past 6 months. Humans were not the harmless newcomers they had pretended to be. General Patricia Hayes sat beside President Webb. Her uniform carried new decorations, medals from the successful liberation of 37 worlds. The media called her the Hammer of the Empire. History would remember her as the woman who brought down 8 centuries of tyranny, but she looked tired. Command of a galactic war had aged her 5 years and 6 months. Webb activated the recording devices. This ceremony would be broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. We are here today to formalize the surrender of the Zeltharian Empire and establish the terms of peace. He looked directly at Emperor Vexthon. Your empire murdered our diplomat during peace negotiations. You declared that humanity would serve or be destroyed. You were wrong on both counts. Vexthon's voice was barely a whisper. What do you want from us? Webb opened a datapad. The terms of surrender filled several pages. First, the immediate dissolution of the Zeltharian Empire. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your warships will be scrapped under human supervision. Your weapons of mass destruction will be turned over to human authorities. He scrolled to the next section. Second, war crimes tribunals. Every official who participated in attacks on human civilians will stand trial. This includes the operatives who murdered Ambassador Chen. They're already dead, Vexthon said. They died during the first battle. Then their superior officers will answer for their crimes. Webb continued reading. Third, reparations. The Empire will pay for the reconstruction of every human colony you attacked. The families of every civilian you killed will receive compensation. This debt will be paid over the next century, with interest. The Zeltharian delegates looked at each other with despair. The sums involved would bankrupt their civilization. Fourth, territorial concessions. All disputed systems will be transferred to human control. Your species will relocate to designated homeworlds under human protection. Emperor Vexthon raised one of his shackled hands. Protection? You mean imprisonment? Webb's expression didn't change. You will be free to govern yourselves as you see fit, as long as you never again threaten other species. Human observers will ensure compliance. And, if we refuse? Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated the wall display. The screen showed footage from the war, Zeltharian fleets being destroyed by weapons that bent space and time. Planets stripped of their ability to support military forces. Cities that had simply ceased to exist when human quantum weapons fired. Emperor, in 6 months of warfare, humanity destroyed your military capacity, crippled your infrastructure, and occupied 37 of your worlds. We did this while suffering fewer than 10,000 casualties. The display changed. Now it showed human military formations throughout the galaxy, fleets at every major world, troops on every inhabited planet, weapons platforms that could sterilize continents. Your species numbers 12 billion. The human species numbers 47 billion. You have no military. We have the most advanced fleet in galactic history. Webb leaned forward. If you refuse these terms, we will simply take what we want and scatter your people to refugee camps on distant worlds. The choice is yours. The other galactic species watched in fascination and terror. They had never seen humanity's true military strength. For 50 years, humans had seemed like peaceful merchants and diplomats. Now they revealed themselves as warriors who had been hiding their time. Ambassador Veltar of the Altarians spoke from the gallery. President Webb, the Galactic Council is concerned about humanity's aggressive response to the situation. Webb turned to face her. Ambassador, Are you suggesting that murdering diplomats should have no consequences? Of course not, but surely, a more measured response would have accomplished what? Webb interrupted. The Empire has been conquering and enslaving species for 8 centuries. How many diplomatic protests did the Council file? How many economic sanctions did you impose? Veltar looked uncomfortable. The Council believes in peaceful resolution of conflicts. So did Ambassador Chen. She believed in it right up until a neural disruptor liquefied her brain. Webb activated another display. This one showed the locations of human military bases throughout the galaxy. For 50 years, humanity tried to work within the galactic community. We followed the rules. We respected the treaties. We showed restraint when attacked. He looked around the room. This is what we learned. The galaxy respects only strength. Peaceful species get conquered. Diplomatic species get murdered. Weak species get enslaved. The display changed to show human colonial worlds. Cities were being rebuilt. Farms were producing food again. Children were playing in schools that had been bombed 6 months ago. We refused to be weak. We refused to be victims. We refused to let tyrants determine our fate. Webb turned back to Emperor Vexton. Your empire believed humans were inferior because we sought peace instead of war. You thought diplomacy was weakness. You were wrong. He stood up. Humans didn't choose peace because we were weak. We chose peace because we knew what we were capable of when we chose war. The Emperor stared at him. What are you? Webb smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We're the species that conquered our own world before we learned to leave it. We're the species that survived ice ages and plagues and nuclear weapons. We're the species that turned diplomacy into an art form because the alternative was too terrible to contemplate. He walked to the viewport where Sarah Chen had stood 6 months ago. Your species ruled through fear and superior technology. But you never learned the most important lesson in the galaxy. There's always someone stronger, someone smarter, someone more dangerous. Webb looked out at the stars. We tried to be your friends. You chose to be our enemies. Now you'll learn what it means to lose to humanity. The surrender ceremony lasted 3 hours. Every term was read aloud. Every condition was explained in detail. When it was over, the Zeltharian Empire officially ceased to exist. Emperor Vexthon signed the documents with hands that shook with age and defeat. His advisors signed their names to war crimes confessions. The greatest military power in galactic history became a footnote in human victory. As the defeated Zeltharians were led away, the other galactic species approached President Webb. Ambassador Veltar spoke for the group. President Webb, the Council would like to discuss humanity's role in galactic affairs. What role is that? Well, with the Empire gone, there's a power vacuum. The Council believes humanity should join us in maintaining galactic peace. Webb looked at her for a long moment. Ambassador, let me be very clear about something. Humanity is not interested in ruling the galaxy. We're not interested in conquering other species. We're not interested in building an empire. He walked back to the conference table where Sarah Chen had tried to make peace. But we are very interested in making sure that diplomatic immunity means something. We're very interested in ensuring that smaller species aren't bullied by larger ones. We are very interested in preventing another empire from rising to threaten galactic stability. Webb placed his hand on the table where Sarah's blood had been cleaned away. The galaxy is going to change. Species that survived by serving the Empire will learn to govern themselves. Worlds that were stripped of resources will be rebuilt. People who lived in fear will learn what freedom means. He looked around the room at the alien delegates. And if anyone tries to recreate what the Empire was, if anyone tries to conquer, enslave, or terrorize innocent species, they will answer. To humanity. Webb walked toward the exit. At the door, he paused. Ambassador Chen believed that reasonable people could solve their problems with words instead of weapons. She was right. But she also learned that not everyone is reasonable. He looked back at the empty table where the Empire had surrendered. We won't forget that lesson. And we won't let anyone else forget it either. 3 days later, Webb returned to Earth. Sarah Chen's family met him at the spaceport. Her husband thanked him for bringing justice for his wife. Her children gave him drawings they had made of their mother. Webb kept those drawings in his desk for the rest of his presidency. A memorial was built at Concordia Prime where Ambassador Chen had died. The inscription was simple. Sarah Chen, she believed in peace, but died for it. Humanity. Captain Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Audacity, her eyes fixed on the massive view screen. The stars looked the same as they always did on deep space patrol, cold, distant, and beautiful. She sipped her coffee, black with one sugar, and thought about home. Earth was 6 months behind them now, and some days the weight of being so far from the blue planet pressed on her more than others. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Officer Ben Wright, his fingers moving quickly over his control panel. "It's not matching any known signature." Lisa set down her mug and moved to his station. "Show me." The screen changed to display a pulsing light that shouldn't be there. It moved unlike any ship Lisa had seen before, not in straight lines or curves, but in a pattern that seemed almost like a dance. "Is it a malfunction?" she asked. Ben shook his head. "No, ma'am. 3 separate systems are tracking it. Whatever it is, it's real." Lisa tapped her communication badge. "All senior officers to the bridge immediately." She turned to the helmsman. "Keep our distance but maintain visual contact." Within minutes, the bridge filled with the Audacity's command team. Science Officer Maria Ellis was the first to speak after studying the readings. "It's definitely artificial, Captain, and the energy output suggests technology far beyond our own." Lisa felt her heart beat faster. Humanity had been searching for proof of alien life for centuries. They had found simple organisms on Mars and Europa, but never intelligence, never technology. "Are they scanning us?" she asked. Communications Officer Jake Davis nodded. "Yes, but it's like nothing I've ever seen." The scan passed through our shields like they weren't even there. As they watched, the strange ship changed course. It was heading directly toward them. "Yellow alert," Lisa ordered. "Raise shields, but weapons on standby only." The minutes crawled by as the alien vessel approached. It was beautiful, shaped like a spiral shell made of some shining material that seemed to change colors as it moved. "They're hailing us," Jake said suddenly. "But this can't be right. They're using our own communication protocols." Lisa straightened her uniform. On screen. The view screen flickered, and for the first time in human history, Earth made contact. With an alien intelligence. The being that appeared had blue-gray skin, 4 arms, and large, gentle eyes that reminded Lisa of a deer's. "Greetings, vessel of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Krilltox of the Zephyrian Diplomatic Corps, representing the Galactic Council." A stunned silence fell over the bridge. "How do you know our language?" Lisa finally asked. The alien made a gesture that might have been a smile. "We have been observing your world for some time. Your broadcasts reach far into space. We find your television particularly informative." Lisa introduced herself and her crew, trying to maintain the dignity expected of a captain, while her mind raced with questions. "We have come to formally invite humanity to present itself before the Galactic Council," Krilltox continued. "Your species has reached a technological threshold that qualifies you for consideration as a member race." "There are others?" Maria asked, unable to contain herself. "How many?" "The Council currently consists of 17 sentient species," the ambassador replied, "each with their own worlds, cultures, and contributions to galactic knowledge." Over the next hours, the crew of the Audacity learned about a universe far more populated and organized than they had ever imagined. The Galactic Council had maintained peace among its members for over 2,000 years. They had laws, trade agreements, and shared technology. But as they exchanged information, something began to trouble the alien ambassador. "This music you play before battle," Krilltox said, examining the ship's cultural database. "These national anthems and war songs, they are quite unusual." Lisa didn't understand at first. "How so?" "No other council species has developed music specifically to enhance combat effectiveness," the ambassador explained. The concept is concerning. The aliens had requested a complete cultural exchange, and the ship's AI had provided their entire database, including historical records of military marches, battle hymns, and the use of music in warfare from ancient drums to modern military ceremonies. It's not just for war, Lisa tried to explain. Music is central to human culture. We use it for celebrations, for sadness, for love. Yes, we have music too, Krilltalk said, but not music that makes one want to, how do you say it, charge? Into battle. When Krilltalks played Zephyrian music for them, the humans understood the difference. Alien music was mathematical, precise, beautiful, but entirely without the driving rhythms and emotional swells that characterized human compositions. News of the contact spread quickly back to Earth. Within days, the United Nations Security Council had appointed representatives to meet with the Galactic Council. President Alan Foster selected Admiral Ryan Winters, Earth's most decorated military officer, and Dr. Olivia Grant, the leading xenobiologist, to represent humanity's interests. Before they departed, President Foster gave them clear instructions. We're newcomers here. Be respectful, be honest, but protect Earth's independence. We won't submit to becoming a colony or protectorate. The journey to Proxima Centauri Station, where the Council maintained its headquarters, took 3 weeks. Aboard the Zephyrian ship, Admiral Winters spent the time studying Council laws and histories, looking for potential threats or opportunities. Dr. Grant focused on understanding the biology and cultures of the member species. Both were troubled by what they found. They've never had a major war between Council members, Winters told Grant one evening. Not in 2,000 years. Is that bad? Grant asked. It's unnatural, Winters replied. Either they're hiding something, or they're fundamentally different from us. Further study revealed that Council races resolved conflicts through elaborate negotiations and, when necessary, highly regulated competitions that never resulted in actual casualties. Meanwhile, the Council representatives were reviewing Earth's history with growing alarm. 20,000 recorded wars, the Arcturian delegate noted. How can any species survive such self-destruction? Perhaps we should reconsider this invitation, suggested the Moribund representative. They may bring violence to the Council, but others saw potential in humanity. Their adaptability is remarkable, argued the representative from Bellerophon, and they've developed technologies in centuries that took us millennia. As the Zephyrian ship approached Proxima Centauri Station, neither humans nor aliens realized that their differences would soon become critical to the survival of all. In the outer reaches of the galaxy, something ancient was stirring. The Void, heralds, a hive mind that had nearly destroyed the Council 5,000 years earlier, were awakening from their long dormancy. And the logical, ordered defense systems of the Council would prove useless against them. Only humanity's chaotic emotional approach to war, the very thing that concerned the Council, might save them all. Captain Lisa Morgan received new orders. Just as the Audacity was about to return to Earth, they were to remain in deep space as humanity's first line of defense while negotiations proceeded. I don't like this, she told her first officer as they reviewed their patrol route. It feels like we're being kept away from something important. She had no idea how right she was. Admiral Ryan Winters had faced many challenges in his long military career, but nothing prepared him for the sight of the Council chambers. The room was massive, with a high ceiling that showed the stars above through some kind of transparent material. 17 large thrones formed a half-circle, each designed for a different alien body type. Some were built for beings twice the size of humans, while others seemed made for creatures smaller than a child. At his side, Dr. Olivia Grant whispered, "They're trying to intimidate us." Ryan nodded slightly. "It's working." The two humans wore their finest clothes. Ryan was in his formal military uniform with all his medals, and Olivia wore a simple but elegant blue suit. They looked very small as they walked to the center of the room. A tall, thin alien with skin like purple bark stood up. "The Council recognizes the representatives of Earth. I am High Counselor Ziv of the Arcturians, and I will lead today's session." Ryan, stepped forward. "Thank you for inviting us. Earth is honored by this opportunity." The formal introductions took nearly an hour, as each council member greeted them according to their own customs. Some bowed, others made strange sounds or gestures. The humans did their best to show proper respect to each one. Finally, the real meeting began. "We have reviewed your historical and cultural records," said Ziv. "We find much to admire in humanity. Your art, your literature, your persistence in the face of challenges. But we also find much that concerns us." A large, blob-like creature that seemed to float above its throne spoke next, its words translated through small devices in the human's ears. "You mean to tell us that your species has fought over 20,000 recorded wars among yourselves?" Ryan answered honestly. "Yes, and from each one we learned and grew stronger." A murmur ran through the council. Ryan could tell this was not the answer they wanted. "Do you see war as necessary, then?" asked a small, bird-like alien. Olivia stepped forward. "We see conflict as inevitable when intelligent beings have different needs and limited resources. We hope we've evolved beyond the worst of our violent past, but we don't pretend that we've eliminated it completely." The council members exchanged glances. Ryan could tell they were communicating in some way that the humans couldn't see or hear. "There is another matter," said a being made of what looked like liquid crystal. "Your music of war. We find it deeply troubling." "Music of war?" Olivia asked. "Your battle hymns, your marching songs, the sounds you create specifically to enhance your fighting abilities." The crystal being's voice sounded worried. "No other council species has developed such a thing." Ryan tried to explain. "Music helps humans coordinate and maintain courage. In difficult situations, it's not just for war. We use it for all kinds of activities." "Yet you admit its purpose in conflict," said Ziv. "We have analyzed your Ride of the Valkyries and your 1812 overture, with its weapons sounds incorporated into the music itself. These seem designed to glorify violence." Olivia shook her head. "They reflect our history and emotions, both good and bad. Art isn't always about the ideal. Sometimes it's about expressing the full range of human experience." The debate continued, for hours. The council was clearly divided. Some members seemed interested in human creativity and adaptability. Others saw humans as too unpredictable and dangerous. Finally, the oldest member, Supreme Counselor Vax of the Andromedan Alliance, raised one of his 4 hands. The room fell silent immediately. "I have watched many species join our community," Vax said, his voice deep and slow. "Some seemed peaceful but became aggressive once they gained our technology. Others appeared violent, but learned our ways of harmony. We cannot judge humans by our standards alone." He looked directly at Ryan and Olivia with his large, ancient eyes. "We shall observe them more closely before deciding. The humans will be granted provisional status while we learn more about each other." The council session ended, and Ryan and Olivia were shown to their quarters in the diplomatic wing of the station. The rooms were comfortable but clearly designed with alien ideas of human needs. "What do you think?" Ryan asked once they were alone. "They're afraid of us," Olivia said. "Not because we're stronger, we're clearly not, but because they don't understand us." Ryan nodded. "And they're hiding something. Did you notice how they avoided any questions about conflicts with species outside the council?" That night, while Ryan slept, Olivia couldn't rest. Something about the council's reaction to human music bothered her. She decided to use the data terminal in her room to learn more about council history. Most information was restricted, but her scientific credentials gave her access to cultural and biological records. She searched for anything related to music and conflict. Hours later, she found something strange, a classified section about a species called the Void Heralds. The file was mostly blocked, but she could see that they had nearly destroyed the council 5,000 years earlier before mysteriously retreating to the edges of the galaxy. The one clear detail that stood out was a warning. Void Heralds show extreme negative response to ordered sound patterns. All ships must maintain sonic silence when in potential contact zones. Olivia sat back, her mind racing. Ordered sound patterns. Wasn't that exactly what music was? A soft chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. A small, insect-like being waited outside. "Dr. Grant, I am Kix, assistant to Counselor Vax. The Supreme Counselor requests your presence immediately. It is a matter of great urgency." Olivia followed Kix through empty corridors. The station's artificial day cycle was set to night, and most beings were resting. Vax was waiting in a small, plain room with no windows. He looked even older without the formal lighting of the council chamber. "Doctor," he said without greeting, "what do you know about the Void Heralds?" Olivia felt a chill. "Only what I just read in your database. That they attacked the council long ago." Vax's eyes narrowed. "And now you know why your war music disturbs us so deeply." "I don't understand." "The Heralds are returning," Vax said. "Our outer sensors detected their movements 3 months ago. That is why we contacted Earth when we did. We needed to understand if you were potential allies, or if you would make the situation worse." He touched a control, and a holographic map appeared showing the galaxy. Red dots pulsed at the edges, slowly moving inward. "Tomorrow the full council will be told. But tonight, I needed to speak with you alone." Vax's voice grew quieter, "because I believe humanity's unusual relationship with sound and conflict might be exactly what we need to survive what is coming." Olivia stared at the advancing red dots, understanding now why the council feared humanity's battle music, and why they might soon need it desperately. The emergency alarm woke everyone on Proxima Centauri station. Its high-pitched tone echoed through every corridor and room. Admiral Ryan Winters was pulling on his uniform when Olivia burst into his quarters. "It's happening," she said. "The Void Heralds have attacked 3 council worlds simultaneously." Ryan followed her to the main council chamber. The room was in chaos. Alien representatives shouted in their various languages while holographic displays showed battles across the galaxy. The council's ships were being destroyed quickly and easily. "Their defense systems aren't working," Ryan said, watching the patterns of the battle. Olivia nodded. "The council fights with logic and patterns. Every ship follows exact formations. But look at the heralds. The enemy ships moved in strange, unpredictable ways. They seemed to change direction randomly, making it impossible for the council's targeting systems to lock onto them." High Counselor Ziv noticed the humans and approached them. His purple bark-like skin looked paler than before. "This is not your battle," he said. "We have arranged transport to return you to Earth." Ryan stood, straighter. "With respect, Counselor, I believe we can help." "How? Your technology is centuries behind ours." "It's not about technology," Olivia cut in. "It's about approach. Your ships move in perfect formations. The Heralds seem to know exactly what you'll do next." Ryan added, "Humans have been fighting unpredictable enemies for thousands of years. We understand chaos in battle. Let us contact our ships." Ziv hesitated, then nodded. "We have nothing to lose. The Beryllian system has already fallen. Millions dead." Within minutes, Ryan was speaking with Earth Command. The human fleet was small, only 12 ships were in range to help, but President Foster immediately agreed to send them. "The Audacity is closest," the communications officer told Ryan. "Captain Morgan can be there in 6 hours using the jump coordinates you sent." While they waited, the news got worse. A 4th council world fell to the Heralds. Their attacks were getting faster and more coordinated. Supreme Counselor Vax joined Ryan and Olivia in the tactical room. "I've convinced the council to give your ships full access to our defense network," he said. "But many doubt that 12 human vessels can make any difference." Ryan smiled grimly. "It's not the number of ships. It's how we use them." When the Audacity and 11 other Earth ships arrived, they were given a simple mission: protect Bellerophon, the next world in the Herald's path. Captain Lisa Morgan received the orders directly from Admiral Winters. "This is Operation Valkyrie," he told her. "You know what to do." Lisa gathered her crew. We're facing an enemy that defeats the Council by predicting their logical battle patterns. We need to be what humans have always been best at, creative and unpredictable. She turned to her communications officer. Prepare the special package. All ships in the fleet will synchronize their movements to our broadcast. As the Void Herald ships appeared near Bellerophon, they encountered something new. The human ships were arranged in a loose formation, seemingly random, and they were broadcasting something strange. Across all frequencies, Richard Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries played at full volume. As the music swelled, the human ships began to move, their patterns matching the rise and fall of the music. The heralds hesitated. Their ships slowed as if confused. They're trying to analyze our pattern, Lisa said, but there isn't one they can predict. We're following the music, not logic. When the music reached its first climax, all 12 human ships attacked at once from different directions. They scored direct hits on 3 herald vessels. On Proxima Centauri station, the council members watched in amazement. "What are they doing?" asked a small bird-like counselor. "They're dancing," Olivia said, fighting to the rhythm of the music. As the battle continued, the humans changed their music. Gustav Holst's Mars, the Bringer of War, now thundered through space. The human ships changed their movements to match the new tempo and feeling. The heralds couldn't adapt. Their ships began to retreat. "It's working," Ryan said, watching the display. "They can't predict what we'll do next because we're not following logical battle computers. We're following music, mathematics combined with human emotion and instinct. For the first time since the attacks began, a council world was successfully defended. The human ships had losses. 3 vessels badly damaged, with the Audacity taking the worst hit. But Bellerophon was safe." In the days that followed, the council had to accept that their advanced technology wasn't enough. They needed human unpredictability. Commander Sam Kelly from the human ship Defiance set up a new command center on Proxima Centauri station. There he began teaching council military officers something they had never considered: how to fight to music. "The tempo sets your pace," he explained to a group of alien captains. "The crescendos tell you when to press the attack. The mood tells you whether to be cautious or bold." Many council species struggled with the concept. Their minds worked differently from humans. They couldn't feel the music the way humans did. Lieutenant Amy Cruz found a solution. "We'll create mixed crews," she suggested. "Put human commanders on council ships. They can feel the music and guide your crews." At the same time, Dr. Grant was studying everything she could find about the Void Heralds. In ancient records, she discovered something important. "They're not evil," she told Ryan and the Supreme Counselor. "They're frightened." "Frightened?" Bax asked. "They've destroyed 4 worlds." "Yes, but look at this." Olivia showed them images of herald communication patterns. "Their society is based on randomness and diversity. They see the Council's order and logic as a threat to life itself. They attack because they believe you'll force all species to become the same." Ryan understood. They see the Council as a force for homogenization. "Exactly," Olivia said. "And what do humans represent? Chaos within order. We have rules and structures, but we value individual expression and creativity." On the military front, the Human Council Alliance was holding the line, but just barely. Every day brought new herald attacks. The human approach worked, but there weren't enough humans to command all the ships needed. Captain Joe Reeves of the Defiance proposed a new idea. "If the heralds respond negatively to council order and positively to human chaos, maybe we can communicate with them through music." "You want to talk to them?" asked Ziv, shocked. "They've killed millions." "So did we in our own wars," Joe replied. "But we found ways to make peace. We need to try." With council permission, Joe began a risky plan. Instead of battle music, human ships near the Herald fleet started broadcasting something different: jazz improvisations, classical symphonies, and indigenous music from Earth's many cultures. Music that showed order within chaos, structure within freedom. To everyone's surprise, the Herald ship stopped advancing. For 3 days, the galaxy held its breath. The Herald ships remained motionless at the edge of Council space. They weren't attacking, but they weren't leaving either. They seemed to be listening to the music that humanity was broadcasting. On Proxima Centauri Station, the Council debated what to do next. Many members wanted to use this pause to build up defenses and prepare for the next attack. Others supported Captain Joe Reeves's plan to try to communicate with the Heralds. "We should strike now while they're confused," said the Arcturian representative. "Destroy as many of their ships as possible." "And then what?" asked Joe. "They have thousands more. We can't win a war of elimination." Supreme Counselor Vax nodded. "Captain Reeves is right. In 5,000 years, no species has ever communicated with the Heralds. This may be our only chance." Dr. Olivia Grant had been working non-stop, studying the Herald's response to different types of music. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a display. "When we play highly structured music like Bach, they move away slightly. When we play jazz or improvisational pieces, they move closer." "They prefer chaos to order," Admiral Winters said. "Just like we thought." "Not exactly," Olivia corrected. "They respond best to music that balances both, structure with room for individual expression. Human music is unique because it has mathematical patterns but also emotional elements that create controlled unpredictability." The Council gave permission for the next step: direct contact. A small team would approach the Herald mothership in Tito 9, a shuttle. They would bring no weapons, only communication equipment specially designed to translate musical patterns into whatever form the Heralds might understand. Dr. Grant would lead the team, along with Captain Reeves and 2 Council scientists, who specialized in communication with unusual life forms. Everyone knew it was dangerous, but they had run out of other options. As their shuttle approached the massive Herald ship, Olivia felt both fear and excitement. No one had ever been this close to a Herald vessel and survived to tell about it. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," Joe said. "We're mixing Earth music with mathematical sequences that should tell them we want to communicate." The Herald ship was unlike anything they had seen before. It wasn't made of metal or any material they recognized. It seemed to shift and change as they watched, never keeping the same shape for more than a few seconds. Suddenly, a beam of light reached out from the Herald ship and surrounded their shuttle. Everyone tensed, expecting to be destroyed. Instead, the shuttle was gently pulled toward the larger vessel. "I think," Olivia said slowly, "they're inviting us in." Inside the Herald ship, the Human Council team discovered something amazing. The Heralds communicated entirely through sound waves, a form of music far more complex than anything humans had created, but recognizable to them in principle. The Council scientists had always thought Herald communications were just noise because they followed no logical pattern. But to human ears trained to find beauty in the balance between order and chaos, the Herald sounds were clearly a form of music. "They're singing," Olivia whispered. "Their whole civilization is built on song." At the center of the ship, they met what they would later call Herald Prime, a massive being that seemed to be made of vibrating strings, like a living instrument. When it communicated, the sounds it made formed complex patterns that the human-designed translator began to decode. The message was simple but profound. "You sing with both order and freedom." "None have done this before," Olivia responded through the translator, turning her words into musical patterns. "We are humans. We want to understand you, not destroy you." Over the next several hours, a strange conversation took place. Part music, part mathematics, part emotion. The Heralds explained that they had retreated 5,000 years ago because the Council races were too rigid, too logical. They feared that if the Council continued to expand, all creativity in the galaxy would be lost. "We attack not from hate," Herald Prime's message translated. "We attack from fear that all will become one pattern, one song endlessly repeated." Joe asked the question everyone wanted answered. Why return now after so long? The answer chilled them. Council grows, soon too big to stop. Must act now, or diversity dies forever. Olivia saw her opportunity. Humans are new to the Council. We bring chaos and creativity with us. We can ensure that the Council values diversity. On Proxima Centauri Station, Admiral Winters and Supreme Counselor Vax waited anxiously for news. When the shuttle finally returned, they weren't prepared for what they heard. "The heralds will talk," Olivia announced to the assembled council. "They want peace, not war, but only if the council changes." "Changes how?" asked High Counselor Ziv. "You must embrace diversity rather than just tolerating it," Joe explained. "The heralds believe the council forces all member species to become more alike over time, following the same logical patterns." Admiral Winters stepped forward. "They're not entirely wrong. Even in the short time we've been here, you've tried to make us more like you, more logical, more predictable." The debate that followed lasted for days. Some council members refused to consider changing systems that had worked for thousands of years. Others saw the wisdom in what the humans and heralds proposed. In the end, it was Supreme Counselor Vax who found the solution. "Perhaps," he said, "we need a new position on the council, a representative for creativity and diversity who ensures we never become too uniform." "A herald representative?" asked Ziv, shocked. "No," said Vax, "a human one." While the negotiations continued, something unexpected happened. The human ships began broadcasting concerts for both council members and herald ships. These weren't battle songs now, but Earth's greatest musical achievements. Everything from classical masterpieces to jazz, from traditional folk songs to modern compositions. Council engineers working with human musicians created new instruments that could play music in ways both species could appreciate. Herald sound shapers began to collaborate with human composers to create entirely new forms of music that combined their different approaches. Dr. Grant discovered that most council species had once had their own musical traditions, but these had been gradually replaced by logical sound patterns as they joined the council culture. Now, inspired by Earth's example, they began to rediscover their own unique musical heritage. On the 5th day of negotiations, a message came from Herald Prime directly to the council chamber. "We have heard enough. We understand now. The humans sing with many voices but one harmony. This is what the galaxy needs." Admiral Winters smiled at Olivia. "I think we just saved the galaxy with a song." "Not yet," she replied. "The hardest part is still ahead. Getting 17 logical species and one musical hive mind to agree on a peace treaty." But for the first time since the crisis began, there was hope. The sound of war that humans had brought to the galactic council was being transformed into something new, the music of peace. 3 months after the first meeting with Herald Prime, the galaxy had changed forever. The massive Herald mothership now orbited Proxima Centauri Station peacefully. What had once been the greatest threat to the council was becoming its newest. Member. Admiral Ryan Winters stood in the newly redesigned council chamber. The old formal thrones were gone, replaced by seating that allowed all species to face each other as equals. A large open space in the center was designed for the herald representatives, who preferred to float freely rather than be confined to one spot. "Ready?" asked Olivia, joining him. She wore a formal blue dress with symbols of both Earth and the council. Ryan nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be to sign a peace treaty with beings we were fighting 3 months ago." The ceremony was being broadcast to every council world and to Earth. President Alan Foster would be watching from the White House, along with billions of humans who still couldn't quite believe what had happened. Supreme Counselor Vax entered, first followed by representatives of all 17 council species. Then came Herald Prime, its body shifting and shimmering like a living aurora. Sound waves rippled from it, creating what humans now recognized as a formal greeting melody. High Counselor Ziv had been chosen to speak first. "Today marks a new beginning for all intelligent life in our galaxy," he said. "For too long, the Council has valued order above all else. We believed this was the only path to peace." He gestured toward the humans. "Earth has shown us another way." They brought with them something we had forgotten: the beauty of controlled chaos, the strength that comes from embracing differences rather than eliminating them. Herald Prime's translator converted its song into words all could understand. "For 5,000 years we saw only threat in your order. Now we see possibility. if balance exists between pattern and freedom. Ryan stepped forward to sign the treaty on behalf of Earth. The document was unlike any other peace agreement in human history. It wasn't just about ending hostilities. It created an entirely new structure for the Council. Under the new agreement, the Council would have 3 branches: the traditional logical order branch that had existed for millennia, a new creative, diversity branch led by humans and heralds, and a balance branch with representatives from all species who would ensure neither approach dominated. As Ryan's pen touched the document, music began to play throughout the station. It wasn't human music or herald songs, but something new. A grand symphony combining elements from all 19 species, including musical traditions that council races had almost forgotten. The composer, a young human named Peter Dale, had worked with musicians and sound creators from every species. They called the piece simply Harmony, and it told the story of conflict, misunderstanding, and finally unity. After the ceremony, there was a celebration unlike anything the council had ever permitted before. Logical order gave way to joyful chaos as beings who had once feared each other now shared food, drink, and most importantly, music. Captain Lisa Morgan of the Audacity found Admiral Winters watching the festivities from a quiet corner. Her ship had been repaired after the battle at Bellerophon, and she and her crew were now considered heroes throughout council space. "Quite a change from when we first met the Zephyrians," she said. Ryan smiled. "We came to the stars ready for war because that's all we've known, but we brought something else with us too. Music," Lisa said. "More than that. The knowledge that after discord comes harmony, that differences can make us stronger, not weaker." Across the room, Dr. Grant was deep in conversation with Harold Prime. Over the past months, she had learned more about Herald language and culture than anyone thought possible. The translator devices were becoming less necessary as she began to understand their musical speech directly. "They're offering to help us improve our space travel technology," she told Ryan when she joined them later. "They can show us how to reach other galaxies within a human lifetime." "In exchange for what?" Ryan asked cautiously. "More music," Olivia said with a smile. "They're particularly fond of jazz. The improvisation speaks to them on a deep level." 6 months later, President Foster stood before the United Nations on Earth. Representatives from the Council and the Heralds floated beside him on the stage. "The galaxy we have joined is not the one we expected," he told the assembled nations. "We prepared for conflict but found opportunity. We thought our war songs would mark us as dangerous. Instead, they helped us save civilization." He gestured to the Herald representative, who created a beautiful pattern of sounds that the translator converted. "Humans understand what many forget, that true harmony requires different notes played together, not the same note repeated." Proxima Centauri Station, the human embassy had become the center of a cultural revolution. Council species that had suppressed their artistic traditions for millennia were rediscovering them. Young aliens came to study Earth music, art, and literature, while human students learned the mathematical precision that had made Council technology so advanced. Admiral Winters had been appointed as Earth's first permanent representative to the Council. In his new office, he met with Captain Joe Reeves, now promoted to command his own ship, the Harmony. "Your first assignment as captain is ready," Ryan said, handing Joe a data pad. "You'll be taking scientists from Earth and the Council to study the Herald homeworld. They've never invited outsiders before." Joe looked surprised. "Why me?" "Because your idea to communicate through music is what made peace possible," Ryan explained. "The Heralds requested you specifically." As the Harmony prepared for its historic journey, Dr. Grant joined the crew as the chief science officer. Her understanding of Herald communication had made her the natural choice to lead the research team. Before they departed, Supreme Counselor Vax visited the ship. The ancient alien had seen countless changes in his long life, but none as significant as those of the past year. "When we first detected your broadcast from Earth, we feared what we heard," he told Olivia. "Your battle songs, your stories of conflict, they seemed to mark you as dangerously unpredictable." "And now?" she asked. "Now we understand that creativity requires unpredictability. You taught us that harmony doesn't mean everyone must play the same note. As the harmony left the station, bound for regions of space no council ship had visited in 5,000 years, it broadcast a new symphony, one created by composers from all 19 species, including the newest members of the Galactic Council, humans and heralds. President Foster later remarked in his address to the first graduating class of the Galactic Academy on Earth, "We came to the stars ready for war because that's all we've known. But we brought something else with us too, the knowledge that after every war comes peace, after discord comes harmony. Perhaps that's humanity's true gift to the galaxy." And throughout Council space, the sound of war that humans had brought with them had transformed into something greater, the music of peace, the song of harmony, the symphony of stars.